Okay, the Golden Globe Awards just wrapped up. This was the 81st Golden Globes. And boy, it was an Oppenheimer kind of night, wasn't it? Five Golden Globe wins out of their, I forgot how many was it, 8 nominations? 7? Well, 8 if you count the Box Office Achievement Award, which I don't because it's kind of silly. Anyways, so yeah, 5 out of 7, really. The only 2 it lost were for Emily Blunt, and then what was the other one? Screenplay. So yeah, Oppenheimer kind of led the night. After that, you had Poor Things win a couple. You had Anatomy of a Fall surprisingly win a couple. I thought it was just going to have one award for sure, and that was about it. Barbie got a couple, and I think that's it. Yeah, it wasn't really as much of a spread the wealth kind of night as I was thinking. We did see Maestro go home empty-handed. Past Lives, I believe, had 4 nominations. That they couldn't give anything. American Fiction lost all of its nominations. May December couldn't win anything. And some of these weren't, I don't think, like shocks or anything. Killers of the Flower Moon won the one award I think a lot of us had a peg for, Best Actress Drama. Let's see, who else? Who else had multiple nominations here? I think that's kind of about everything, yeah. I guess technically Spider-Man had a couple there, and that very surprisingly did not win for animated feature. But yeah, we'll talk about the winners here in a little bit more detail. So yeah, overall, I think the ones I missed were animated feature. I did not get that right. Actor drama, I went with Bradley Cooper. It was Cillian Murphy, so I didn't get that one correct. I did not have Divine Joy Randolph in supporting actress. I had Danielle Brooks actually winning that, so if I already did not miscount, that's only 3 incorrect. And I did clearly, I don't think anyone had Anatomy of a Fall for screenplay. I really did not hear anyone saying that. I had Tony McNamara for Poor Things. I thought Poor Things would do ever so slightly better than it did here, but still 2 wins, including the comedy musical prize was definitely a 2 good ones to get right. So I guess that's 4 wrong if I'm counting here correctly. So that wasn't too bad a night. I mean, sometimes the Globes, they do give us these curveballs here once in a while, both at the nomination stage and then for the winner stage as well. So good to see that. Not too bad a showing here. So as far as the winners here, we'll dig into this a little bit. Also, if we have time, I can kind of briefly recap a couple things from the BAFTA list. I did not have time to record anything about that prior to this, so we might talk about that just a little bit. And I think we'll be back here probably tomorrow or Tuesday for SAG stuff, final predictions there. So Oppenheimer winning picture drama, I don't think that was a major surprise. None of the other films in this category really had a huge mojo, going into the night or anything. If anything, I thought after the way some of these other prizes worked out, I'm like, ooh, what if it actually is a very surprise win for something like Anatomy of a Fall or maybe even Killers of the Flower Moon or something, But no, Oppenheimer's good here. And I think it's, I still think it's pretty secure to maybe not get the most nominations Oscars morning. I mean, I think really at this stage, the way the shortlist worked out, something like Killers of the Flower Moon actually might surprise us and get more nominations. Or Poor Things could grab most nominations. Oppenheimer, I think, will be right there if it doesn't get most or if it doesn't tie for most. But yeah, it'll be really close there to getting most nominations, and that's not a bad spot at all. For motion picture comedy musical, that did go to Poor Things. I was a little worried about the Holdovers, a little worried about Barbie, especially in that category, but Poor Things pulled it out. And yeah, I'm still on this track that says Oppenheimer probably will win for picture, but if they get bored with Oppenheimer here in the next month and a half here. Because I forget when is the actual Oscars. Let's see, what is the date here? March 10th. Okay, I was like, I wanted to say it was late February, but I'm like, no, they've been doing it lately in March. But yeah, March 10th. So if they get bored with Oppenheimer here in the next 2 months leading up to the, again, technically almost 2 months when we get to final voting, then I think something like Poor Things is going to be right there to snatch it. And especially with Poor Things, really getting a high chance now of landing, multiple nominations in the acting categories, screenplay, director, It's going to have a good mix in the tech categories. Oppenheimer, I think, is going to do the same. Killers of the Flower Moon looks like it's looking pretty good to do the same. It's, I think, Poor Things also being a little bit, different and having that different flavor. I think that's going to be appetizing for some voters. So its win here, I think, is a good sign that it is ahead of Barbie. It is ahead of Holdovers and American Fiction, I think, in the Best Picture race. Let's go to director next. Director was Christopher Nolan. No surprise here, and really, Nolan's speech, though, talking about Heath Ledger, I thought was actually a really nice, really kind of briefly touching moment and everything. And he talked about, seeing Robert Downey Jr. in the crowd and stuff. That was a really nice moment for him. And again, I feel like even if we somehow, even though, because a lot of people do think it is Oppenheimer at the moment, there's not a lot of naysayers yet saying, oh, it is Poor Things, it is Killers of the Flower Moon, or it is Barbie, or something, or one of the others in the mix. I think almost everyone is really down on Christopher Nolan winning for director. I don't hear a lot of opposition to that. So, and I think, again, regardless of how Best Picture goes, I think Nolan almost has Best Director on lock and key at this moment. He's just, again, so well respected. Oppenheimer is, obviously a great film. It's kind of his time. He's done a few films before. This will be at least his second nomination here at the Oscars. Second in the directing category, I should clarify. I think he was producer on Inception, so it'd be his third or fourth or whatever after all the producing credits too. And I think maybe he got a screenplay or something in there earlier too. So we'll count that too. Anyways, and it's also I think a lot of people pointed out it's really a miracle that this film, with the subject matter and stuff, not so much what it's about, but just that it is a 3-hour movie about, okay, we spent some time building the bomb and telling the story there, but the rest of it is just a lot of people talking in small rooms and stuff, and it gets the almost $1 billion box office reception. It gets, all this praise and stuff. Again, I think a lot of that is down to Christopher Nolan for knowing, having this vision for the film and not overdoing it, not producing Tenet 2, producing Oppenheimer, if that makes sense. Anyways, let's go to the acting categories now. Best Actor Drama. This one, I was leaning on Bradley Cooper here because, again, I feel like Maestro had the 4 nominations. It was the only opportunity, really, in the night to award Netflix, I think, at least. I'm, looking through the winners again here to make sure I'm not missing something. But no, this would have been the only chance to award Netflix. And and I felt like Cillian, even though he has been doing a lot of press for the movie and he's been doing plenty of campaigning as well, I just had a feeling it's like, I feel like they're going to give it to Bradley Cooper, and I was wrong about that. And Cillian, I've heard, there might be some rumblings out there right now that, Cillian's just going to win the whole thing now. Let's pause on that. With Cooper and everything, with the Maestro role and everything, and how that's going to turn out and all that. I can still see that winning at the SAGs. I can still see it potentially winning Critics' Choice. It might... I don't know if it'll win at BAFTA, though. That's where Cillian could strike again, easily, being Irish heritage and everything. But, I still I think I'm going to pick Bradley Cooper for now. Once we get a little further into the season, we'll see if maybe Cillian can really continue, and if he, particularly SAG, if he keeps steamrolling, gets to SAG, wins it, I feel like at that point it might be over. But, For Actress Drama, went to Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. Yep, again, kind of expected winner here. And really, again, and I try not to spend way too much time in these videos talking about the speeches and stuff, but, and the show itself. Sometimes I do if I feel like it's relevant, or if it really, if a couple things stood out to me, of course. We had to talk about, like, the Will Smith slap, of course, a couple of years ago. But no, with Lily Gladstone here, I just felt her speech was really, really terrific, and, and it's not that there was, like, bad speeches through the night. No. A lot of them were really, really great. In particular, I thought, actually, surprisingly, one of my favorites up to that point was the speech that Margot and Greta Gerwig threw together. I shouldn't say threw together, but, looked, at times it looked a little impromptu, which is, I don't know, it might have been planned that way, but I don't know. When they talked about the Box Office Achievement Award, when that went for Barbie, and I felt like generally, again, all the speeches were really good. There wasn't really like a horrible speech in the bunch. So hers in particular, though, I thought really stood out. Not just because it was at the end, or toward the end, because it was the second penultimate award that was given out. But I just really thought it was a good job there. And again, particularly if the voters are watching here and they see that speech versus Emma Stone's, I mean, Emma Stone's great. Her movie, I would prefer to see her win just based off the performance alone. But if we're looking at some of the outside stuff here, and the fact that they will probably want to give Killers of the Flower Moon something, bam, that's a big opportunity to award Lily Gladstone. Plus, there's the narrative I've been talking about a little bit about if the industry really wants to award this movie and award it for a American Indian figure or honor that part of it, Lily's kind of the only option because everyone else who worked on the film pretty much is pale white. It's like this would be about the only opportunity to do so, unless you go with Robbie Richardson, who or is it Robbie Richardson or Robertson? I keep getting that wrong. It's Robbie Robertson, who actually does have some. I think he had actually a little bit in his heritage there, because I'd heard some stories about him growing up on a reservation and everything. So, and his would be posthumous, though, to be fair. Okay, so that's that one. Let's move on to the comedy musical categories here. Paul Giamatti won for Best Actor Comedy Musical for The Holdovers. Again, not a huge shock here. I don't think this is like a particularly heavy race or anything. Jeffrey Wright, I thought, was probably the spoiler, though, if there was going to be one. But no, it went to Paul Giamatti. And I don't know if he's going to be enough to overturn Bradley Cooper or Cillian Murphy, but still nice to see him recognized and to see the movie recognized, too. And we did mention Emma Stone did win for Poor Things, nice little speech and everything too for her, of course, I don't want to spend way too much time on speeches and stuff here, but I thought again this one, Margot Robbie was maybe the spoiler here, but yeah, especially since they were going to give Barbie other stuff and other awards in other places tonight, I thought this is probably Emma Stone's to lose. In the supporting races, Robert Downey Jr. won for Oppenheimer. His was, again, felt like it was pretty solid. Again, you had Mark Ruffalo and Ryan Gosling kind of, potentially splitting votes there for that, supporting role that's more comedic. So anyways, I feel like that's probably a good spot for Robert Downey Jr., and his speech was nice and everything, too. And his was one of the first ones of the night, so I do remember that. And I feel like he's in a good spot to start potentially really running the table here for supporting actor. Supporting actress, we did have Divine Joy Randolph win here. I had Daniel Brooks. I thought maybe with The Color Purple getting, even though it was shut out of like comedy musical picture and stuff, I still feel like, this could have been a momentum spot. This could have been a spot where we could have seen her win and kind of start, on that trail there. But unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to be enough for her to start up a thing here. Now, Divine, I think, is going to continue. Like, Critics' Choice, I feel like, is probably going to go with her. SAG, again, and BAFTA are going to be two spots where we'll see. She could potentially win both. And she could, again, just steamroll the competition all through the rest of the season here. But we'll have to see. Because I think Emily Blunt's going to have some votes for sure. Daniel Brooks will have some votes. Julianne Moore will probably get a couple votes in there for sure. And we'll see if it's enough, to upset her. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Next, we will go with the screenplay category. This was the surprise of the night. One of the two, I should say. And it was Anatomy of a Fall. And this was one of the last films I expected to win here. I had Poor Things winning it. I was afraid that it could go to Barbie. And and it ended up being neither. It was Anatomy of a Fall. And wow, that really threw me for a loop here. I really don't have an explanation for why this won. It was awarded in the international film, the film not in the English language category, which we'll probably get to here in a little bit. But this was completely off my radar for the win here. And it's it's still it's a good movie and everything. It's in my I guess it would be top 5-ish in there. The script was good in it. It's not a bad script or anything, of course, but that is not the standout to me. Sandra Hüller I thought was great, and the direction from Justine Triet I would also give a lot of credit to for making the film as good as it was. And obviously the script is a big part of that, but I really did not expect them to award that film. Now, again, with Barbie being moved over to the adapted category, does this put, the ball in the court of Anatomy of a Fall to win at the Oscars? I don't know. I mean, The Holdovers is likely going to have more nominations. Um, who else? Past Lives is also in the original category here. That could tie with the number of nominations or get, about the same number as Anatomy of a Fall, maybe, plus or minus one. I don't see Past Lives overperforming at this rate. I don't see it getting, like 6 or 7 or anything. But that's I don't know. This is one that's really has me scratching my head here. I'm not sure why they picked this one, but it was a pleasant surprise though to see it, because I was expecting either Barbie or Poor Things, but yeah, Anatomy of a Fall, and that's one of the curveballs, man. That's one of the curveballs. Let's see. Next, we'll go with animated feature. This was the other one, Boy and the Heron, and then I actually saw a stat and I was like, oh, this totally explains it. The director there, famously, Miyazaki, has not won at the Golden Globes before. Evidently, and I'll have to look this up here, Spirited Away, that was the same year as... let me look here. Hang on. I'm going to have to see. Let's see. Was it even nominated for the Globes that year? It won at the Annie Awards. I see that. BAFTA did not have a award for animated feature at the time. Maybe the Globes didn't either. That doesn't make sense. No, I thought the Globes had a category for that back then. Alright, hang on. I'm going to have to see here. Maybe they did not have an award at that time. Let's go to categories here. Here we go. There it is. Oh, it was introduced in 2006. Okay, I thought it was around the same time that they introduced it at both of the Globes and the Oscars. But no, there was a little period there where they did not. And, so again, in retrospect, now it makes more sense. That's something I actually had not heard anyone talk about up to tonight. You can argue, too, that, some people will say, well, also just look at the historic numbers here, not just for the Globes, I think, but for the Oscars as well, with sequels. Sequels at the Oscars for animated feature, rarely do they win. And that would, it's an argument here for sure, and it makes sense. Spider-Man was clearly the bigger box office buffo. It was, up for another category in score. So it did feel like, it felt like it was Spider-Man's to lose for sure. And again, in retrospect, giving it to Miyazaki here does make sense. It's kind of a makeup prize since they didn't, some of his, obviously his earliest work, in the 80s and stuff, into the 90s, they did not have an opportunity at the Oscars or here at the Globes to award it. So that, again, in retrospect, does make sense. So that one was also a surprise tonight, but it's one that, again, in retrospect, you can explain why. For film not in the English language, that went to Anatomy of a Fall. Again, it felt like this was the front runner here, with Zone of Interest possibly playing spoiler, unless they wanted to give it to maybe Fallen Leaves, since that had an acting nomination. But again, I think it just continues to show, as we've seen through the season here, Zone of Interest, when it's up against Anatomy of a Fall, it is kind of struggling a little bit. And I think they're going to be lucky when they do get to the international feature category at the Oscars. Yeah, that's where Zone of Interest can get the prize kind of to itself. But and again, with Trier on the award twice, on the stage twice, I'll see. I'll keep an eye out here, and we'll see if more people start switching to her, maybe getting a nomination for director here in the coming weeks. I'm going to keep her in for now, but it is tempting to go with a Greta Gerwig or a Celine Song, or maybe even Jonathan Glazer, of course, for that 5th slot. But we'll have to see. In the music categories, we've got Ludwig Göransson winning for Oppenheimer. And even if Oppenheimer, because he is the kind of Oscar favorite at this point, even if he wasn't at that stage right now, I still think he would have won this award, because he did not win here for Black Panther a few years ago. And it does feel like, Oppenheimer's probably going to win this, even though I would probably vote for Robbie Robertson, because that score was really good for Killers of the Flower Moon. What Was I Made For? The Billie Eilish song, of course, from Barbie was the winner there. And that one also felt like a gimme. That was a pretty easy one to predict. And it was obviously a good spot to award Barbie. And just to mention it, the Cinematic and Box Office Achievement Award was Barbie. Snooze fest, yeah. I don't know if they're going to continue this category for a super long time. But, yeah, it kind of just felt like, yeah, let's throw in something so we get some of the popular people there. It's like, yeah, we didn't exactly see Tom Cruise, jump to his feet after everything he did with the Globes a few years ago here, like throwing all his out or whatever, or sending them back, FedEx or whatever. He didn't jump to his feet to get here for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, nominated as Cinematic and Box Office Achievement. Yeah, that wasn't going to work. You didn't get Keanu Reeves there for John Wick Chapter 4. You didn't get Chris Pratt, there for either Mario Brothers or for Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I mean, and Taylor Swift did show up, cool. Travis Kelce wasn't playing today either, that's fine. But, so I guess she had the day off, but, yeah, we won't go into the other obvious jokes there. But anyways, yeah, and everything. And by the way, as a person that did see her show in concert here this past summer, I know you can be jealous if you want, but yeah, I'm not a huge concert person, but that was amazing to watch. So I haven't seen the movie of it, but even as someone, again, I was not super overly familiar with her catalog of music, but god damn, that was a great show. they knew how to put on a good show. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Otherwise, for the show itself, there are a couple things I do want to say. And they're not great. Well, three things, actually. But the first two things kind of go together because they're things that they did not do on the telecast that they normally do. And I can understand people that maybe are not as offended by this or not as... And I'm not offended, but people that could be offended or not offended by it, or people who just don't care. No in memoriam, which I do kind of miss that. I kind of like to see, one last hurrah for the actors and the people behind the scenes and the people in the industry everywhere, film-related, that, get their last shot after they've passed away. I miss, I like seeing that stuff at the Oscars. I like seeing that stuff at SAG and the Globes, but they just totally skipped it this year. And I feel like, again, I'm not personally offended by it or anything, but I miss that stuff. I like seeing that stuff. I like seeing everybody get that last chance for everyone, who's watching and everyone in the room, to acknowledge what has come before them. And, whether that's stuff they've worked on as late as this year, or that's stuff that, they were a one-hit wonder kind of actor or producer or something. It's just good to acknowledge it, because it's, I don't know from personal experience, but it's tough to make a movie. It's tough to get all this stuff together. And, for all these people that have passed in the last year, and obviously it's just this one award show and everything, but I hope it's not a trend we see the SAGs and the Oscars follow, because that's not nice. That's not cool. Not cool to do that. The second thing is the Cecil B. DeMille Award winners, which I need to look up again here. Who won that this year? Do they have it listed anywhere on the thingy here? Maybe they do. Yeah, well, I guess just not doing them. And I guess because I thought I'd heard who had won the Cecil B. DeMille Award, and then I totally forgot who it was, because I thought it was going to be, oh shit, who was it? I completely forgot who it was, but it was like it was a person you would say, oh yeah, that totally makes sense, because they've done Denzel, they've done Tom Hanks, they've done, more recently here, I'm thinking of the ones, Eddie Murphy they did, Jane Fonda, they've done Meryl Streep, George Clooney, Woody Allen, Jodie Foster. They've done, it's people you expect, people like that. So it was somebody on that level, but I can't remember who it was now. And I thought they'd announced it, and then, yeah, so then I was like, okay, where is it? And they didn't do anything with it. And I guess, I don't know if that's part of just, obviously we're doing all this stuff this year. We're doing the new stuff. We're going to CBS for the first time. There just wasn't, time to throw it all together and everything. I guess that makes sense and everything, but it's like, I like seeing those Lifetime Achievement Award things. Again, it's at the Oscars, when it's like, if you're giving it 6 people, it's okay to show, them showcased or whatever, them waving to the crowd or whatever. That's fine. I don't know if they have time on the telecast and people would be interested to hear 6 or 7 people talk. But, seeing, some of those speeches in the last few years have been excellent, absolutely excellent by the winners there for both television and film awards. And and they've only done a couple for the TV people, because that is still a pretty new award and everything. So I missed seeing that, and and it's kind of a ticky-tack thing since I guess they didn't do it. But I thought I had heard who it was that won the Cecil B. DeMille, and now I'm not remembering who it was. But anyways, and the other thing, let's just for the whole awards bodies going forward, whether it's SAG or BAFTA or and some of these people have announced who's hosting their shows. Let's not get a host in the 11th hour or the 10th hour leading up to the show. Because I don't know who this guy was, this Joe Coy. I've not seen him before, and I don't know if I'm going to see him after on anything, but he stunk. He absolutely stunk. I think I chuckled at 2 of his jokes in his monologue, and after that, I was kind of flipping through other things. Other stuff was going on here tonight, so I, like football, for example, so I was kind of looking at that on and off and everything. And, so I didn't, by the time we got to his little interludes, in between commercials and stuff, by the time I caught that, I was hitting unmute and I was, going back to it because I was listening or watching other stuff. Anyways, but let's just not have a host if you can't grab somebody like right away, like in the month or 2 leading up to the show. Let's not grab somebody last second because again, this guy did not cut the mustard for me. Was not funny. I kind of chuckled at the Kevin Costner standing next to a horse or a cow in the mountains thing. Okay, that was kind of funny. And I'm spacing right now on what the other joke was that got a laugh out of me. But the rest of it, it just absolutely bombed. It bombed hard. And I can't remember who was hosting this last year. Jared Carmichael, and that it's another thing where it's like, okay, I don't really know the host very well or anything, so it just feels like I don't know. I feel like you need to get this stuff like immediately and give them time to prepare because obviously this guy was really unprepared and everything. But no, this did not work at all. So I'm not right away I saw a couple things about not glowing reviews for the host and stuff, and it's like. Well, yeah, I wonder why. Number one, and maybe it's just his style of comedy is just not for me, and that's fine. But number 2, you gave the guy less than 2 weeks to prepare. That's not near enough time for something like this. Personally, I mean, I'm sure there's probably examples out there, and there's people that are like, well, what somebody can throw something together at 90 minutes before the show starts. Okay, maybe, but clearly those people are very, very few and very, very far between. Because this guy didn't cut it at all for me. I thought it was a disaster, absolute disaster there. Also, I felt like the presenters, what they were doing, and what they were, some of them were just obviously reading off the teleprompter, and it was just fakey shit, and I hate that shit. Just whatever, like the I'm sorry, but the Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig thing, which I've seen, when they did their shtick literally over a decade ago, because the year that Jennifer Lawrence won for Silver Linings Playbook, I've seen that clip a few times because they were funny in that, and they were kind of making fun of the nominees, like talking about how it was Meryl Streep or Judi Dench, and their movie was on a tractor or something. It was totally wrong because they said they've seen all the nominees. They're like, yeah, when Judi Dench was riding on that tractor, it was it was funny. It was funny to me. What they did here tonight was abysmally bad. It was just terrible. It was god awful. So they're even trying to repeat stuff from previous years, and that didn't work. And some of the pairings just did not make any sense. Some people, I've heard a couple people like the Gold Derby guys, some of them get very anal about it, but they really hate it if you have a person in a film present a category in which their film is nominated. So, for example, tonight I think we had Matt Damon presenting the Best Director award, and obviously he's in Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer won. So it's like, I know some people get very, very specific, like they don't like that stuff, because it opens the opportunity. The argument is that it opens the opportunity for them to be visibly, disappointed in in announcing who the winner is if it's not the person they worked with, and all that. And I think to an extent, I'm a little more okay with it than others are, but it's like, again, some of these pairings just made no sense. Like you had Julia Gardner go up there, and I don't know I didn't recognize the guy she was with. But you had Jason Bateman in the front fucking row. Get them on there. They're on Ozark or whatever, or we're on Ozark. It's like, they got Matt Damon and Ben Affleck together. They got the two from Naiad. They got Annette Bening and Jodie Foster together. Just get the people that were in the same project together, or people who have historically worked together. Like, I don't know, you can pull from anywhere. You could get Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington to present together. They've done a movie or two together. I don't know. If Margot Robbie was there, it's like, okay, get her and Ryan Gosling to present on something that Barbie is not nominated for. I know it's only like 2 categories, but whatever. It's like, I like the pairings there. And some of the pairings, sometimes they work. Sometimes, you discover something that just, it's like, oh, I didn't even think of these two together. And it works. Like I remember more recently, there was, I can't remember which show it was, maybe a SAG or Critics' Choice something, where they had the gal from Wednesday, the Netflix show, and Aubrey Plaza together, and it's like, these two at first I was like, oh, it's kind of weird, and then when you saw them together and their energy going back and forth, it was like, bingo, they knew it. They knew exactly what they were doing, and that worked. Jared Leto and Angela Bassett, the fuck? What did they have to do with each other? It made absolutely no sense. And there was, that was a head scratcher. I mean, that was one of the first presenters I remember. God, who else? I can't even, I don't know, I guess we can go into some of the other ones here. It's like Kevin Costner and America Ferrera. It's like, what do these two have to do with each other? It's like, that made no sense. Or Michelle Yeoh and Naomi Watts. It's like, okay, unless I'm forgetting a very obvious thing, they haven't done anything together. And it's like, okay, they just, are they just randomly, because other times, they do get, Kristen Wiig and Will Ferrell, who have, worked together a few times, obviously, and, presented a category, almost the very same category, because it was Best Actress Comedy Musical, a few years ago. So it's like, again, I don't know. It's just some of these, they feel like they nail it. Other ones, they just feels like they pulled names out of a hat. Like Kerry Russell and Ray Romano. When the fuck have these two worked together? And that makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. Anyways, so again, I feel like sometimes we do spend a little too long critiquing the show, because it's like, obviously what's not important is the show itself. What's important is the ramifications and the follow-up to the winners, and what does this mean, and how does this affect the races going forward and stuff. And I feel like just overall, just to wrap it up here in that way, Oppenheimer, yep, it does show it is pretty solidly in the front-runner status. Anatomy of a Fall is one to look out for, just based off its couple wins here. We'll see. I mean, we've had, if I just look through the last couple years here, let's do that, and we'll see if there's any films that, won here and then kind of disappeared. Actually, you don't have to look too far. Look at the film, drama, and comedy musical winners last year. The Fabelmans and Banshees of Inisherin, both shut out at the Oscars. That happens. Tar won Best Actress Drama, was shut out at the Oscars. Austin Butler won for Elvis, was shut out at the Oscars. Angela Bassett for Black Panther, as I recall, she didn't even get nominated, right? Or am I totally forgetting this? No, she was nominated, right? See, I can't even remember that. Good heavens, where is it at here? Yeah, she was nominated. Good lord, yeah, I overthought that. I'm sorry. But yeah, she did not carry through. Let's see here, yeah. Or like Babylon got a good number of nominations here. That ended up getting 3 tech nominations and didn't win anything at the Oscars at the end of the day. And obviously there's examples like from 2021, you had like Power of the Dog winning Picture Drama, and it's like, well, at that point it was the expected winner, and Coda hadn't really taken off yet, so that, a little less critique about that, but yeah. We have like Tick Tick Boom winning and getting nominated for a few things. That did not end up getting nominated for Best Picture. Yeah. Let's see here. I'll look through a couple more years just to see who else, totally, if anybody's like totally, again, vanished out of the race there. But well, I guess you could go Jodie Foster for the Mauritanian. I think I'm pronouncing that right finally after all these years. Because she did not end up getting nominated. That's correct. Let's see here. Let's go back to 2019. Yeah, that would be the last one here. And again, another one you could look at is like, ooh, 1917 winning for drama picture. Well, obviously, this is, again, at a time before you had films like Parasite that would have been eligible for the film drama category. If it had been nominated there, well, we'll see. It gets interesting. 1917 also did win for director, so it might have stood. It might have been the correct call, but yeah, that one I remember that year they in the at least the drama categories and then the supporting categories they nailed those for who would win the Oscar and stuff. But yeah, so yeah, it's again the Golden Globes are never like absolutely perfect. I don't think for predicting the winners. Obviously, they have you can't have the comedy musical category and the drama category person win both. Both of them can't win at the Oscars. You can only have one winner unless they happen to tie, but that's really, really rare in the acting races, of course. Yeah, so I think that's all I got for now on that. It is kind of late here, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here. And we can, when we do get into the SAG nomination, final predictions for those, for who's getting in at SAG, we can cover a little bit and talk a little bit more about what happened at BAFTA for the long lists. They went, I think, a little bit more mainstream, outside of maybe a couple things here and there than I was expecting, which is, a little interesting. Yeah, and we'll talk more about that next time when we get to final SAG predictions. But for now, that's it for the Globes. Moving on.